Hi guys, so this is something a little bit different from my channel. I don't know that I've ever made a knitting video, actually, this channel or my old one. But anyway, I love crocheting and knitting, and it's just things I've been doing for decades. I learned crochet when I was really small from my mom, and I learned how to knit. I taught myself just graduating from high school. I mean, that was a long time ago. And I literally would watch old PBS videos about knitting, and then I started watching like knitting shows and things like that. But I would rent, or not rent, but check out DVDs. Actually, at that time they were VHS on how to knit from the library. So it was really fun, because reading, a lot of times it's really hard to understand like what they're trying to implicate, or like indicate, should I say, not implicate, but indicate. And I just liked videos better. So today that's what we're going to do. It's just a really quick beginner project. And when I mean beginner, it's a little bit advanced, because we're going to use circular knitting needles. And I'll link whatever I can that's available in the description box. Those will be affiliate links, which means I'll make a small commission for your purchase thanks to those links. Now, Takumi, if you know anything, the Clover line, or Clover Takumi line, should I say, is not inexpensive. So these are kind of, a high dollar item. They definitely have more inexpensive ones, like on Amazon, things like that. But at the same time, sometimes with those kinds of things, you get what you pay for, especially with something like this, because what happens with these interchangeable circular needles is that you're gonna screw a tip, right, the needle, the size that you want for your project, on there. Today we're probably gonna be making some leg warmers, and I know you're probably thinking it's going to summer, what are we doing? But it's always good to know the project and start working, because if you want them for Christmas presents, or you're gonna start wearing them in the fall, you have a few months, right? But these are not inexpensive, and they just feel so nice. I love bamboo needles, and I have all the metal ones, the Susan Bates and like Boyer, is that the other company name, I think, like all those kinds of things. And and what I love about those is actually when you're working, they click the metal ones, and it sounds like you're just doing all this work, and you look so amazing. But you get a little click sound too from your bamboo ones. It's just a little bit different, right? But look at this case. It's gorgeous. Let's open this up. I did initially pick this up from Joann, but it is way cheaper on Amazon. Like, their everyday price on Amazon is like $70 less. So just keep that in mind. Even with the coupon at Joann's, it was still a better price than Amazon. So when you open it up, it says Takumi Combo by Clover. You have this little guy, little silica pack. Of course, you want to toss that out, or I guess you can keep it with it, but I don't know. Over here we have our needles. So this was just there to keep things up and off of there. I do like using double pointed needles, like the set of 4 or 5. It depends on what you're creating. If you want 4 needles holding your circular project, and then you knit with the other one, or 3 needles holding it, kind of like this, and you knit with the 4th one. I have some of those too. They're a little more complicated. I have seen people use these things with a thing called like the magic ring or something like that, where you still use a long one, because let's say, obviously not everyone can just go out and pick these up. They are not inexpensive. Like I said, there are cheaper ones, or others that you can pick up. What I was trying to say earlier is that what happens is you have these pieces, and these are the actual, I guess, wires, or these are plastic. You're going to screw those onto these ends, and as you can see, this one's shorter, and then there's one that's like a medium length, a little bit longer and longer. So it gets cost prohibitive trying to buy a set of each size, right? And generally people want 0, 1 through 10, or whatever it is, and having their own length. Like, oh, I want 8-inch ones, and then 16-inch ones, and 14-inch ones. I mean, that's crazy, right? I mean, you're buying multiples, right, of just too much. So something like this is really great. Again, if you're a real beginner, maybe you want to get like an average size that you normally would use, like a 5 or a 6 millimeter, and maybe like 16 inches or 30-inch wire, but you're going to do something called a magic eye or magic ring, I forget what they call it, but you're pulling on the cord, the extra cord, so that you can make a smaller project on longer wires. It's not my favorite. It's tangly a little bit. It's a little bit gangly. Not really tangly. It's just more to work with. And if you're a beginner, it's not fun. So for me, this is going to be awesome. You have, let's see the sizes there. Here it comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that happens to be 16-inch, 24-inch, 29, 36, and 48. I mean, you can make all kinds of stuff on these. Of course, if you're doing 48, let's say you're making like a panel for a blanket, or a blanket, because, they can kind of squish in there. I mean, that is 4 feet. It gets heavy, okay, guys? So you might have it on your lap, but as you're working, I mean, it's getting bigger and bigger and heavier and heavier. So just something to think about when you have something like this, or a project that you're planning. Today we're going to make leg warmers. I'm going to make them super easy and super, like, knit 2, purl 2. That's it. That's all we're doing. And we're probably going to use a 16-inch circular because I don't really need to use the 24, and then whatever size needle I actually need for my project. But let's open this up and see what info this has. So it tells you there. Contents of the set, you have the number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 needles, and that would be sizes. I mean, I'm just gonna hold it here because if you're European or anywhere else in the US, it's different, right? So from 3.25 millimeter to 10 millimeter, which is really awesome. So again, you have your needle and you're gonna join them, and all you're doing is screwing it on. And what happens is, that's kind of, you know, what I'm talking about, like in it more, if you have needles that are more inexpensive. And I'm not saying that always happens, because I buy things on Amazon all the time. And actually I have a set coming in that are bamboo needles, but they're, just regular knitting needles. Is that they can come apart as you're working, because as you're working, you're kind of doing all this kind of stuff, and it is turning, and you don't notice it. It's turning. The little wire in the background is turning, and it unscrews. So you want something that's high quality that's not going to do that, right? Or if you catch it, like, just every once in a while, give it a little tightening. I had another set that are more inexpensive. I don't know where I put them, but it's just something to think about. Like I said, today we're going to make some leg warmers, something quick and easy in a circular fashion, and you can definitely do these up straight, like flat piece, and then sew them. I will probably follow up with something like that, but for right now we're just going to do a very easy knit and purl that you can learn super easy, cast on, cast off, all that kind of stuff. Oh, casting off is like the best feeling. But this is a medium size Woolies, which is very easy to find, Lion brand Woolies yarn. I love this color. It's called Wheat. I really like Aran colors, what they call Aran. Anyway, this one's 80% acrylic, 20% wool. It's a number 4 medium, like worsted weight yarn, your basic stuff, right? 3 ounces, 85 grams, or 197 yards, 180 meters. The reason I'm reading those things is because if you live somewhere else or you have something else, you can still make something similar. It really doesn't matter. I've never swatched something for gauge size. Like it'll tell you here, 18 stitches and 24 rows should make you a 4-inch square. I'm not going to take the time to do that. I don't really make clothing items. I make like gloves and hats and things like that. It just works. It'll stretch or whatever, right? Obviously don't want to make it too big to begin with. But if you're making your own, you want to make your own pattern. There are tons of patterns. This is like the most simple thing you can do. You can find online. A lot of times, basically what you want to do is just take a measurement of like your calf and see just about how big that is, because that's going to be the largest, or it depends on how long you want your, it just depends on how long you want your leg warmers. So wherever the largest size, is, that's how round you want them, or that's how the size of the opening, right? We might switch off to smaller needles towards the end just to make it a little bit tighter up in the calf area, or however long you want them, but just to help you hold it on. Some people like to also knit in like a piece of elastic that coordinates. You can definitely do that. It's really thin, like stretchy elastic that people can sew into their clothes or knit in or crochet in or whatever, and it'll just kind of give it a little bit of stretch. We're going to do it very basic, just the yarn, and that's it. Now, this says that we need 5 millimeter knitting hooks, right? You see the knitting needle there, or knitting needles. Over here, if you're using crochet, it's a J10 6 millimeter. So 5 millimeter, it says 8, but let's just look, that's 6.5. Is it this one? I don't think it goes from 6.5, right? I guess if I had paid attention to what that was saying, yeah, 6. I'm assuming this is going to be 5.5. Yep. And we said we want 5. Ooh, these are a little smaller than I was hoping to use today, but that's okay. And I said I was going to use 16-inch needles. Now, we're going to cast on a certain amount. If my knitting is exactly what these people are saying here, then you would think, okay, let's say I want this to be 9 inches around. So let's just go ahead and take this. You are going to screw these on. So it depends on what you're using, but I'm going to turn this, because if I turn this, flops all over the place. So I'm just going to turn the needle itself nice and tight. And so yeah, the last time I was using needles like this, it's just every once in a while I would just check and make sure it wasn't completely unscrewing. Because as you're working, it kind of loosens. Hopefully these don't, but there you go. I think the other ones I have are Addy Turbo, which are not inexpensive, but I need to find them. So now we have something like this. It feels really nice. Love it. Another thing is, some of these are made of wire. Some of them are made of like this hook, like fish line is what I feel like it is. Hopefully it stays nice and tender and soft like this over the years. Some things get brittle or harder, and then they just, they're just there. It's just not as supple as it feels like right now. Okay, so since I don't even have a pattern, I just know I'm going to knit 2, purl 2, a tube like that. Just get rid of this. Generally, I don't begin from the outside, because if you start using this, it's just going to be moving. It's going to be moving around the whole time. What you're going to do is you're going to find the middle thread, or end, should I say. Now I'm sticking both my fingers in here, and just so I can find like the innermost middle, hopefully, and pull it out. And that was a little more than I would like, but see, here it is. So we're going to do a method called the long tail cast on. There are different types of cast on, getting basically your loops onto your hook. And one of those is crochet, and I never understood that one. It's just much harder to explain, so I'm not going to do it. But I'm basically pulling this from the center, and you can see it's all crazy right now. You're going to leave yourself a long tail. I probably don't need the tail to be this long, but that's okay. So something like that. And don't fret, if you run out, you can either just take it off, do it again, or add more to this side. You can just take, this end, the end that's out here, and add that. Right now we're going to tuck this guy away, though, because we don't want that bothering us. And there's lots of different methods of cast on, and the other day it was kind of funny because most of the time people make a slip stitch and you just put it on, so now you have a knot down here. And I was watching a video and the girl just held it on here, and I'm like, yeah, that's actually pretty smart because you're already making a loop instead of making a knot and then keep going. You're holding it here. This is how I cast on. So the long end is over here, my other part is over here. It actually doesn't matter that much, but I always like to leave the long end over here. I'm gonna take my thumb and this finger. Now I'm just kind of doing it because that's how I do it and I know it in my mind. So if you see me doing something and you're like, well, she didn't mention that, it's because my fingers just want to do it. So I'm holding some tension down here, right? The rest of the string. My middle finger is kind of in here. This is going in between my middle finger and my index finger, over my hook, and then around my thumb back here. And you're going to hold it kind of tight. As tight as you like. Now, this is up here. And all I'm doing is holding this because it could slide off, but we're just going to hold this. You're going to go around your thumb, in front of your thumb, and up over to this finger, and go underneath. And as you bring it back through, you're going to pull up, this little loop is on your needle. And that's 1 and 2. So you're going to knit into this, and you're going to knit into that one, or purl, or whatever it is at the time. But you just added 2, right? The first one made its own loop. So now we're here, and it's much sturdier. I'm still holding it the same way. We're going to do it again. You're going to bring this guy in front, swoop it up, right? That back thread is not doing anything. I'm just going in front here, swooping it up, going over to my index finger, right? Down into here. This loop is still open, and all you're doing is coming through that loop. I'm gonna do it again super slow. And we're not trying to make this super tight. So try to make this as loose as you can, basically, without being too crazy, obviously. So 1, 2, 3. And if you are a tight knitter, like you'll say you do this and you're like, ooh, that was a lot tighter than I would want. Then, change your needles. You can go up a size, like 5.5 instead of a 5, because then it'll get you closer to the sizing that you actually want. Okay, we're still holding it here, so that's already 1, 2, 3. We're gonna do it again in front. Pick that up, bring it over to this finger, pick that up, and pull it through the loop on your thumb. That's 4. Go in here, go in here. 5. I haven't done this, you guys, I'm not kidding, in 10 years. I haven't knit. The last time I was knitting something was when I was pregnant with Dorian, and he'll be 14 in July. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in front, behind, and that is 6. And I guess I should mention, you see I'm kind of moving these back because obviously it's going to get full here. So that's 6, front, behind, up, 7, leaving myself a nice amount. 7 you can readjust if you need to, in front, behind, pick it up. 8, 9, let's see where we're at, 10. So let me see, 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, so I have 10 right now. I can put this down. What I'm going to do is take a quick measure of my calf area and see if I do the math. This telling me 18 stitches is 4 inches. If that stays true, then, we're going to do at least 36, so that's 8 inches. And maybe I need 9 or 10, so we're going to add a few more. So let me, again, depending on your yarn might say it takes 32 stitches to make 4 inches, which is really fine yarn. Well, then you're gonna have to do the math to add that up, right? 32 plus probably another 4 inches, that's 64, plus a little bit more, whatever that might be, right? So let me take a quick measure of my calf and I'll be right back. So funny enough, I tried to measure my leg there. My husband must have taken the kind of measuring tape, like the kind that you would use to measure garments and things and round things. But I used my ruler. It's about 11.5, 12 inches, which apparently I looked up because I thought, is that typical, or like what kind of sizing can I give you guys? And apparently that's what was considered extra, extra small or extra small. So I have little weenie legs. So, you know, this is going to stretch some. I mean, depending again on how many stitches per, 4 inches, 18 stitches, 36 would be, 4 inches, right? 18, 4. 36 would be 8 inches. I don't know that I want to go a whole other 18 and make it legitimate 12 inches because I want it to stretch a little bit, like for it to be not loose, right? So I think what I'm going to do, so the 36, that's for sure, so that's 38 inches, plus another, I don't know, let's say 44, and see what that looks like, okay? Again, it depends on your yarn, so just think of the numbers that way if you're designing your own thing, especially if it's knit 2, purl 2, like what we're doing today. You can make that in any size, it doesn't matter, so whatever works for you, right? Generally, knit 2, purl 2, or knit 1, purl 1 is like a ribbing stitch, so it has like knit, and then purl area, knit, purl, obviously, that's what we just said. But it's typical of what you would see is something like this. I just realized my sweater is a good example. This is knit 1, purl 1. So this is knit 1, purl 1, knit, purl. And usually you start something off that way, then you do your pattern, and then you come back to this like on a leg warmer. For us, we're just going to do all this for the whole thing just to make it a really easy beginner project. But we're doing knit 2, purl 2, so it'll be something like this. It'll look like 2 lines like this and 2 like purl, right? So generally that's why you like something like that, because it's useful for other things. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? 11 again right here, and you can definitely put it down and start up again just like I did. 11, 12, 13. Okay, I'm gonna keep doing the same thing. I'm not gonna bore you guys. 14. I will say make sure you're getting it back on this part, because as you can see the needle tapers, and then again this is super beginner. If you keep doing it and you do go ahead and make your next loop right here, and you keep going, it's smaller and smaller, right? So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure you have enough width that it's the same back here. And let me just see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, and yes, I already forgot where it was, 16. Let's bring it back a little bit, 17. Let's get to 18. Let's get to 20 so what I can show you is that I'm filling this up. These guys can go back here all day. That's the whole point of this, but it's already the size of the loop that you need because of you having put the loop on this. It's not really going to come apart. It's not going to like get smaller. It's ready to go. So as you're working, just keep pushing this back. So 21, I think we did 20, right? 22. Let's push that back, and it's just going to go on here, and they're just going to be on here. They're not going to come off the other side because, I mean, obviously you're only going to do so many. So let me go ahead and do 44, and I'll be right back. I'm aware earlier when I said I had 20, I didn't have 20 yet. I had 18, and then I added 2 more, and then I had 20, so I didn't have 22. But again, you always count and check. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 41, 42, and I'm running out of thread, or my yarn, which is really great because I don't have to have a long tail to weave in, but I'm going to show you something else you can do. So this is 44. Now, if you're making up your own numbers, because let's say you need it to be wider than this, obviously it's going to stretch, like I said, just do it in increments of 2 or 4, well, 4s basically. You want to make sure it's just pairs. 2s and 4s is fine because for as many purls and knits you have to have a pair of each, right? Purl, knit, or knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, and then when you come back around you end on purl. When you come over here you're on knit, so you need, I guess, just think of it in increments of 4 just so you don't get confused. Okay, so I just changed my mind. I think I'm going to do 48 stitches. Just give myself a little bit extra just in case. So let me add to 48, 46, 47, 48. Okay, just because again we're making up our own pattern, I don't know. So what we need to do is bring this together in the round. So that's the whole point of using these kinds of circular knitting needles. So I'm going to push these down, and basically we got to get them to this left side. Now this would look the same if this was just a long knitting needle, a straight needle. You know, put everything on, and then you would put that in your other hand, and you get your other knitting needle and you start knitting. So right now what we have to do is transfer these guys over here and just push them. Obviously you don't want this to get all wonky and like twisted or anything like that, which of course it looks like it's doing. But as long as they're facing the same way when you're done, you're good to go. So let's push these guys over here. I will say this is the right side when this is the wrong side. And you can just tell by the way it looks. Okay, this is the side that should be down over here. Now, we're gonna push these on here, and we have some stretch because obviously we didn't cast on too tight, but at the same time you want to bring these together. So again, with that magic loop, magic eye, whatever thing that they call it, you are basically finding the middle and pulling a little bit of it out like this, just to be out of the way. But as you can see, it gets a little bit wonky. Now this gets harder to do when this is a 30-inch, you know, piece of wire sticking out back here. So I'll just push a little bit, you know, out of my way, like pull a little bit of this out of here, and then get this closer, and then this closer over here. Okay, so what I want to show you is this is the bottom of your work, right? So, you know, you want that to face to the bottom, and what bottom really means is facing you. Like, I don't know if you can tell, it's like towards me. If it was down like this, that's not quite it, but you know, it basically means the bottom. This end, our cast on end that's very short now, I mean it could be shorter, right, some will really run out. You can either weave in later, just leave it alone, weave it in later, and all you do is get this guy and start joining your round, or do them both at the same time so that way it's woven in and you don't have to deal with it later. So that's always a nice thing. So get these guys close. Ugh, I don't really like this extra bit that's out here. But again, my work is smaller than 16 inches in circumference, so you know it's gonna have to do something. What you're gonna do is knit stitching, 2 knits and 2 purls. So let's look at this. Even if this was 2 straight needles, you would do the exact same thing, okay, for knitting and purling. And I'm standing up because I am serious. Let's bring this closer. We have our first stitch, right? These are basically stitches. So what you're gonna do is hold these guys. I hold them in the back, and I'm kind of holding the tension with my hand here. And like I said, there's a couple different kinds of knitting, continental and I want to say international. Let me look that up real quick. That is so weird. People keep calling it continental or English. English. I've never heard that, to be honest. I always heard of it a different way. But this is the way I knit. There's another one where you go like this and you're kind of using your hands a lot more. I don't care for that. So if I recall which type I do both of them. I start off with the first one where you're really kind of working it, and then this now it looks more classic and awesome, so this is what I do. But you're going to go into your stitch. For knitting, you're going to go in the front of the stitch and just right through that loop, right? You're going to wrap this around, and I'm just doing both at the same time right now to anchor that beginning, right? You're going to go 1 and pull it through, and take it off of the needle you just worked on. And when you do that, you're gonna have a stitch over here. Now it has 2 loops because I'm using the end. That's not typical, right? Usually you're gonna have 1 little piece, but we're gonna treat that as 1 when we get back here. Now I could have placed a little stitch marker, which we'll do next, because I mean as you're working you might forget and then you're just going to keep going, which it doesn't really matter. It's just letting you know how many stitches. Now we're going to do the same thing for I don't know how many rows, as long as you want. So generally that's like 80, 100 rows or rounds. So that's up to you obviously in your project, but I'll know when I get here and then we'll place a stitch marker, okay? So that's number 1 knit. Number 2, I'm going to do the same thing. Into this stitch, you go in to the back, loop this around, and I'm just looping it from underneath over like this. Bring it with you, right? So this is kind of bringing that loop that you just made this way and pulling it through. The point of your needle is what holds onto it and brings it up. And get rid of the one you just did. Boop, off the hook. Okay? Now for purling, that was 2 knits. You're going to bring your yarn to the front, and you see I did it with just 1 hand. I just went like this, all cool. Okay, now you have that in front. Now I can keep working with this other piece, or we can just let it go because now it's going to get messy. So I'm just going to let that one go, and we can just cut it off later because we already worked it into our work. Okay, so I brought that to the front. Purling, you're going to go in front of your stitch, in the very front. When knitting, we're going like this, right? Back with the purl. Let me get this out of the way so you can see. We have our loop. You're going in the front of it. Just push to the front. Now, this is already in the front because that's what we did. We transferred it. You're going to loop around your needle, kind of holding it with a little bit of tension with my thumb, and you're going to pull that loop out. Again, your little tip of your needles are helping you out. And so we're going to get rid of that stitch because we just worked it. So go ahead. And this whole time you're kind of adjusting, like I'm pushing that off. It's harder at the beginning, but later on you're going to get more of a motion, right? So that was one purl. Let's not make it too loose. Now I'm still holding this in the front. Again, I'm kind of keeping tension over here with my thumb, my finger, whatever. Again, in the front, that means right here, purl around, pull, and as I'm pulling, that loop is like making itself right here, right? Pull that up, push it off. And now we need to knit 2. So that was knit 2, purl 2. We're going to bring this back to the back because we're going to knit. And again, bring it right in front on the left side of your stitch, right? Through. Bring this guy up and over, up and in between over. And he's holding on to that loop as he comes through. And, you know, really get in this girthy part of the needle, because if you're up here, you're going to make it very tight. So now I'm pushing that off. And that's one knit. Again, through the front. Pull this guy up and over. 2 knits. Push that off. Now it's getting a little bit tighter because we're getting more stitches over here and less over here. So you can readjust whenever you need to. I'm not going to readjust quite yet. Purl. Bring your thread to the front. Right in front. So everything's front with this purling. Front, front. Loop over. Pull it through. And bring it out. I remember when I first started knitting, I was so afraid of purling. I don't know why. It's not the biggest deal. But I would be like, oh no. So you see I'm adjusting because I can only stretch this so far to get that off. And once it starts really stretching, you don't want to do that to your fabric. Okay? Oh, sorry. We're still doing a purl, so this should still be in the front. You should never have this in the back and you go to purl. It doesn't make sense. You're not going to be able to catch it. It needs to be in the front. Purl goes up in front. This guy loops around and gets pulled through that loop. Okay. So let's pull that off. Actually, let's go ahead and pull this one off, and then I'm going to readjust this thing. Actually, let's do it now. Again, it's a little bit harder because of the circumference. There we go. And now I brought my thread back to the back because we're going to do 2 knit. And that would be here. Let me go ahead and push this through, and we're going to readjust this and get ourselves... move this guy out of the way. Now it's not too bad when you're using these that are already kind of small. When you have this big old long thing, some people pull it out one side, pull it out the other side. Just you're trying to get rid of this excess, right? It's not great. Okay. Again, not my favorite. And nothing's twisting, everything's working along, so that's great. So let's bring this up to the front. Let's bring these guys back. You're trying to keep this kind of close, right? Your work. And we're back to knit. So knit goes in the front to the back, right? We're going this way, even though it is in the front. Just different from a purl. Catch your loop, drop it off, knit 1, knit 2. Bring it to the front. Purl goes in the front, pull up that loop, push off the other one, and one more time. Curve around. And this is literally all we're going to do for all of our rounds. So again, adjusting when you need to. Knit 1, knit 2. Okay. I will be right back. I gotta go pick up my daughter, and then we'll continue talking about what we're doing. Knit 2. Okay, and you can just put this down. Nothing's gonna happen to it. It'll be fine. I'll be back. So, I can probably go back in the video and see where I was, but I have a feeling I know where I am because the yarn is in the back. But if you forget, you can look at it now. It's harder to tell a little bit when you're first starting out, but I know these are 2 knits because that's where we started. Purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit. And so the next ones I have to do are purls, just like we've been doing this whole time. The other thing is you can tell by if you're looking at it. So if you look at these, I don't know if you can tell, these 2 are knit, and there's just like nothing there. But the purl ones have what some people call a little scarf. Like it has this little guy, boop and boop, right in front. So it has like a little pink little scarf, little necklace. The other guy kind of doesn't have anything. It looks like a little bit kind of angled, and then 2 pearls, 2 knit. So again, I'm going to continue on purling, 2 purl, 2 knit. Well, I started off saying 2 knit, 2 purl, didn't I? Let's pull this down a little bit. So I'm going to push that off. And adjusting as I go along, just like you saw me do right now. So adjusting that, that's 1 purl, 2 pearls, and then 2 knits. And I'm just going to keep going until I get pretty close to the beginning ones, right? Just so you can see what that looks like. So hopefully that shows you a little bit. And maybe you've already been a knitter and you just haven't done circular needles, or you're afraid of them like I always was, you know. However, but I'm going to keep going till I get back to those beginning stitches. Come back around to basically the end of my round. I did cut this down a little bit. That was that beginning tail, just because it's annoying kind of hanging out there. And again, you know, adjusting as we go along. Obviously we don't want any of this stuff to twist as you're watching it. It's this cord that wants to twist, okay? It's not really your work. So again, we can bring this up here just to get it out of the way. Kind of facing towards me again. And I just did 2 knits, and so the last 2 are going to be pearls. So purl all the way up here, and then purl. Okay, and now we're back at the beginning. If you guys recall, the reason it looks like 2 loops is because I had incorporated that beginning end. So now we're back at the beginning, and all we're doing again is I would take a piece of paper and write down my tick marks that I did 1 round. And so I'll do that in just a minute. Also, it's going to get trickier to tell what's the beginning and the end without a stitch marker. So let me grab a piece of paper and a stitch marker. I'm going to put this down again, unless, you know, you have a cat or a kid. That should be okay. Just leave it there. I'll be right back. Crochet kit that I have that has all kinds of stuff in here. Cable, you know, things for us to make cables and stuff like that. But it has a ton of stitch markers. Some of these are obviously meant for crochet. You can actually just bring it in and out of your whatever spot you're at that you wanted to mark. I'm going to use this one. Oh, we also have these little gold ones. Oh, and I also have some that a friend made for me that are just really cute. So thank you, Carol. But something like this, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, you know, some people put their ring on there. You just need something to mark this spot. And maybe I'll go with something like this. Just, well, actually, what we need to do is see that it's not going to slip off of here if I put it there. It shouldn't move, obviously. This thing's going to keep it back. So on the right side of your work, we're going to put our stitch marker, because we're going to keep working and then we're going to keep going. So again, just same thing. And I said I was going to get a piece of paper, and I did not, but let's pretend this is my paper. I'll write it down again. So I cast it on 48, cast on 48, and that includes that beginning loop, right? So that little beginning loop counts as one of them. So basically the beginner, and then 47 more. And then I said, join, right? We joined as we went in with a knit 2, purl 2, right? And so I already did that 1 round, and as I keep going, I'll just keep putting tick marks until I'm happy as the, you know, however long I want these to be. So now this is our 2nd round. We're going to readjust, just make sure everything's facing the right way, that this isn't all twisted up. It can get twisted, so you just want to pay attention to that. And we're starting our next round, which are going to be knit 2. So I'm going to get into both of these because we have those 2 from the beginning end. So just go into this one, pick that out, knit 1, knit 2, adjust this stuff all the way over here, and bring it to the front and purl 2. Right into the next stitch, purl, right in the front, purl. And I can feel it, yeah, adjust already, knit 1, and I'm doing this super loosely, probably looser than I've ever knit before. Knit 1, knit 2. And maybe I need to adjust here because this is very short while this area is super long. So as you're adjusting, what I want to do is actually just pull this. This is why I don't care for this kind of thing. I have 8-inch circulars too when you want something smaller. You know, those aren't super necessary though. That's kind of why I like double pointed needles, because you can do whatever you want with them. Okay, and we're gonna keep going. So again, what I do, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, okay, purl 2. And again, you can tell by the stitch that's underneath. This one has that little scarf, so that's how we know it's a purl. Or just count again and knit 2, and we will continue doing that till we get to the end of the round, adjusting and, you know, pushing some over this way, pushing some over that way till you get to the end of the round. And I'll be back when I get to the end of round 2. Purl 2 and then knit 2, right, adjusting as we go along. Okay, I'll be back. My family is waking up and doing things, or moving around here. Purl 2, and I'm at the end of that second round, so purl 2. And again, just adjusting as you're going around. It does get easier as this gets bigger. It's just the very beginning where it's kind of tight. Obviously you're establishing things and it's just a mess. So next one, make another tick mark, pass our stitch marker over and keep going. So now knit 2, beginning of my round, same thing, knit 2, purl 2 again, adjusting as we go along. And I want to see if I can show you what this is starting to look like, because you can see kind of it taking shape. I don't know how to explain it. So knit 2, purl 2, purl 2, knit 2, you know, as you go along. I'm going to do maybe several more rounds and I'll show you what that looks like. But yeah, you're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over. I am just strumming right along. So again, once it starts getting established, it's just a lot easier. Again, you know, if you have shorter wires or connectors that would work better for your project, I would do that. But now, you know, it's just doing this. It's just stretching every time, so obviously it's not as stretchy or as stretched out here, but it is pretty stretchy because of the way we have to go ahead and work it on here. But I'm just going to continue along. So as you can see, that pattern just develops and you just see it. So 2 knit, 2 purl, 2 knit, 2 purl. Funny enough, I picked up a loop somewhere. I'm like, how did I do that? So I got rid of it here. It was in this area that was going to be 3 purls. So there's like 2 little bits on here, but you won't notice that when you get there. But if you start working and you notice like, oh, that's weird, or my pattern's off, go back and count. I had 49 when I cast it on 48. So I'm like, how did that happen? So you know, I could tell right when I got here that that was an issue. So I just, did 2 at once, and you can do that like whenever you're casting off or decreasing. What you do is either knit 2 together or you purl 2 together. So like right now these are knit stitches. If I was going to do that, I would go between both of them and go ahead and do my knit, and then when I pull it off, 2 of them are gone and you leave 1 loop on the right side, right? So it's just a way to decrease. Increasing is a little bit different, but anyway, so that's what I did to get rid of that. And then if you get lost, like, oh, I don't know, you know, I've been marking every round. Sometimes I'll forget, I'll start the new one, I'm like, oh, did I mark that last one? So just look at your stitches and you're going to count them. So let's do knits. I always forget how to count purls. I'm sure it's like 1, 2, 3, this little buckle, like where it goes underneath like this, or maybe the top one. But on knit stitches, I'm going to count up the side of just one of these guys. So you can see it's kind of like a V, like V, V, V. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I usually count by 2s. 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. This one is 16. Okay, 18, 20, 22, 24, and I have 24, and I just finished that up. So actually this is the next round, so I haven't finished yet. When I get to here, when I mark it off, it'll be 24 since I reworked that. If I counted these, they'll be 23 because this is to the beginning of my round, right? So I haven't finished that one up yet. So 24, these still have 23 on them until I work them off over here, and then that's the end of my round, and I'll mark it and it'll be 24. So this is 24 rounds. Again, just keep going until as high as you want them. I have another skein of this, so you know, if I run out, but generally, like if you look at it, it says 2 skeins will make you a scarf, 1 skein will make you a hat. You need 6 for like a sweater, so I may end up needing 2 or maybe 1.5 for this project, just depending on how long we make them. I'm aiming for like 80 or 100 rounds per. We probably will switch out at the end to something tighter because again, you know, it depends on your leg, right, or whoever you're making this for. So I did 48 stitches. They're kind of loose, so if I put my leg in this right now, it's tight up here, but it's super loose down at the bottom. But again, they're leg warmers. They need to go over your pants. They possibly can go over your boots or whatever you're wearing, right, or down to your shoe cuffs. So they're not going to fall off. But I probably will switch to a smaller needle size just so that the last few rounds are going to be nice and tight at the end. That'll be the top of my leg warmer that I'll hold on to my calf or yeah, and then the rest will go down towards this. So this would be the bottom, you know, but we'll get there when we get there. So I'm just gonna keep working. And oh, I just realized, yes, the stitching I do is continental, and the way you know that is I went and looked at my English. I don't remember the other one being called English. I swear it was called like international. And this is in the 80s or no 90s when I was learning, so maybe that's what they call it then, maybe not. But right now I'm gonna go do my knit stitches, and you see I'm holding the yarn over here, so when I stitch, it's just a very subtle movement of this, you know, my dominant hand kind of grabbing that and yarning over, right? So let's do a purl stitch real quick. Again, purl, and again I'm just going and adjusting as I need, you know, around the wire thing. So that means like pushing this, pulling it up here, and just keep working. With English knitting, you have the yarn over here, and so I don't know if it looks different, but it shouldn't. I'm gonna go in here, but the yarn is in my right hand. I'm gonna do my knit. You're gonna bring this around and then catch it and then pull it off, right? Next one, knit. And this is how I learned, but if you're making a project that's really big and you're just like doing this every time, it's kind of annoying, right? And then your purl stitches, you're gonna bring this forward. It's the same thing, it's just, you know, purl, and I'm gonna bring it around, catch it, and go back. So I think it's easier maybe to learn because it's so visual, you see it so well. So again, purl goes in the front, this goes around and back. But once you start getting more proficient, honestly, it's just a lot easier to just have it in this hand and just be super subtle about it. Just like, do, I don't know, do the English like to make like a dramatic kind of thing? I don't know. But it's like, if I'm going to do this work, you're going to notice I'm doing this work, right? I don't know. But yeah, I just do this the way, and it just seems faster. I mean, you're not doing much of anything other than just kind of here you go. And again, that's the end of my round. So again, what I was showing you is continental style of knitting. Oh, let's push this down, bring this around. It gets a little bit tight, and get that guy off there. And then I can move my stitch marker. And one other tip I'll give you, because I know when I was a beginner, sometimes I'd be like, was that going this way or that way? And I don't know why that's confusing, because when you're knitting, your yarn, your working yarn is going to be over here. So obviously this is what you've already knit, right? You need to knit this side, what's on the left. And maybe it's harder to think about, I don't know, I guess it wouldn't be. In my opinion, when I was younger, I was just like, so your working yarn's over here. That means you're still knitting that way. So let's say I put this down later and I'm like, oh, I don't know, or, you know, it twisted. Just remember that. This working yarn is on the right and you need to knit that way. So, all right, I will continue on. Hey guys, so working right along. That took me, you know, a couple sessions sitting watching TV. I don't really know how to tell you how long that took. It was over a couple nights basically, but I don't sit here and like knit for 4 hours straight. I think if I had knit for 4 hours straight, I probably would have got it done, but it's like half an hour here, 10 minutes there, you know, 20 minutes there. So anyway, I am at 95 rounds, and I was going to stop at 80, but then I thought, oh, well, you know, and I'm kind of measuring along my leg, and once it starts getting longer and longer, like you start getting, or at the beginning you're a little bit like, oh man, maybe the tension's not right, or it's too, you know, because it has a lot of stretch, especially because I use the 16-inch circular, so obviously it's stretching every single knit and purl as I go along. I mean, I try to keep them nice and tight, but the whole thing gets stretched out, but it's okay. So for this is probably the smallest thing I would put on here. I cast on 48 of, you know, worsted weight. I think if you were to cast on less than that, it's going to be really tight. You probably want a smaller circular, but it occurred to me the reason the smallest size here is 16 inches is because of the sticks, you know, how long they are. Like, you have to have so much so that you can actually work. If you had this tiny little wire here, I mean, it would be impossible, right? And having thought about that, I was like, well, you know, I do want some smaller ones though, so I went ahead and picked up a couple things. So I will review them later though. I picked up the 9-inch circular and a number 8, which is a 5mm, which is kind of typical of what I would use for like worsted weight. These are not inexpensive. It was like $10 for the one, right? And again, that's why it's better to have like a set like I showed you at the beginning. But see how small that is? But look how small the needles are, because you have to kind of hold it like this. So they have to be little so that you can kind of work and pass it along. You know, it just wouldn't work any other way. So I'll review those later. For this set, I did pick up some extension cords. what happens is these guys you would screw in at the end here instead of a needle, and then add another extension or whatever size you want, and then do it that way, right? So you're connecting the cords, that's the word I'm looking for. I keep calling them, I don't know what I was calling them, cables or whatever, but the cord. So I have those. This is an inexpensive set I just picked up on Amazon, so I will definitely review that. This one has, I think, 11-inch cords, so I thought that was cool, but now the thing about the handles are still pretty long looking, so we'll see if this is going to work or how they look in real life, right? So I will review that later, though. And as far as this project, so we're at 95. These never came loose, you know, basically at this connecting point. Sometimes whether you're working with cheaper ones, because again, the wire or the cord might be a little like stiffer as you're working, it just starts turning and twisting right as you're doing your thing, and then they start disconnecting. But this worked like a charm. I didn't have to tighten them, not once. So that's always really nice. What I'm going to do, and I don't know if this is the smartest thing, but I want it to be a little bit tighter at this top end. They're going to look pretty much exactly the same, the bottom and the top, but I'm going to make this a little bit tighter so that they'll stay up, you know, on your calf. I made these, again, these are, let me see, right now it is like 15 inches long, so I mean, if you have a little bit shorter legs, you do a little shorter or something, or for a kid, you know, obviously you cast on less and do less. But for me, this is perfect, and if I did any more, it'll be like over my knee. So this is like right under my knee, so that's gonna be fun. But what I want to do is tighten this up, like I said, just to make it a little bit tighter around the ankle area. I still don't know how to get these out. Like, I don't want to break my nails, like push them forward, I guess, or push them backward. Either way, get them out. So I'm going to go to a size down, which is 4.5, and that should make a little bit smaller loop, a little bit smaller stitch, and that's what I'm going to do for this. And generally what people do at this point when you're done is they switch to a larger needle to cast off, so you have a really nice stretchy cast off, or you can just cast off very loosely, right? Like, you have to be very aware that you want to make it super loose so that it's not all tight at the end. But I'm going to switch out to a smaller needle right now, and I'm going to do 5 more rounds to make it an even 100 rounds. And you might be wondering what these little stitch markers are. I'm just placing them every 20. That way I don't have to count every time. Like, if I think did I mark it down? Maybe I didn't, and I have to count all these. So now it's 20, 40, 60, 80, and then from there I can say, you know, 82, 84, 86, 88, 90, you know, so I can find my spot. So more easily. You don't have to do that. I just did that because, and I did it towards the end of the round, that way I knew for sure that's the last one I did, and then I go from there. And then I clipped this on because I wasn't going to be able to finish this. I changed to this other stitch marker, just let me know it's beginning of my round. I clipped it onto that one stitch just because I knew last night when my kids were home and everything I wasn't going to be able to chat with you guys to keep going. So again, I switched out to a smaller size needle. Effectively that should make a smaller stitch, a little bit smaller. It's a 4.5. Oh, one other thing I wanted to show you guys. I don't know if you just noticed I kind of pushed that like this or whatever I did. It started really hurting my finger. Look at, there's even like a little red mark there that's like permanent right now, because that's what happens as you're pushing. So I used to have some fancy ones that are made of leather, and they help you with all kinds of things. But for right now, I had this little set of finger protectors that somebody had sent me in a swap as a gift, and it's been working really great. So it's silicone, so it's thick, it doesn't hurt. These things end up hurting after a while. I mean, they are pointy. So I'm going to continue on. 1, 2, knit. 1, 2, purl. I am super excited to be done with this. I'm going to knit up the second one really quick, especially now that I got it going. I'm telling you, it's those foundation rows that are the most like persnickety, and you just got to get through that. And then once you get it going, you are good to go. So just keep working, you know. So, and look how it looks so much better, right? At the beginning when I first showed it to you, it was like hugely stretched out. It just starts snapping into place. So I'm going to keep going, and all the way back, purl 2. And I think those are the only other tips I had was, you know, marking your stitches after so long, that way you're not counting every single one again, and then protecting your finger. Especially with this one. If you're just knitting on straight knitting needles, it's not the biggest deal, but like this one, because you have to push this to move this, like, oh, it hurts after a while. So I'll be back, 5 rounds of the smaller, and then we're going to cast off. Yay! Hey guys, I'm so excited to be at this part here, because basically I'm done with one of them. And again, the second one I'll probably whip out much faster. And this was, like I said, probably a couple hours worth of work. But we have it here. Again, the last 5 stitches I switched out to, sound like I dropped something. Anyway, the last 5 stitches I switched out to a smaller needle like we just did. And I'm going to go back to the larger ones, which were just 5.0. You don't have to do anything like this. It's just sometimes people switch out to a larger one when they cast off, so that their cast off isn't super tight, because of course you want the item to fit or whatever. But this was a very loose kind of pattern anyway, so I don't think it's going to be an issue, even if I left it at the smaller needle. But I'm going to go ahead and switch those out. Yeah, having an amazing time with these Takumis. And like I said, I got the other inexpensive set that came in. I already see complaints about different things about it, like here where it connects. A lot of people are saying there's like a little gap and then your yarn gets stuck there. And with these, I mean, it's just smooth. I haven't had any issue like that at all. But we will see. They might be worth the hassle. I don't know. Again, I mean, the expense is much cheaper with the other ones, but I'm usually, like I said, kind of picky about my circulars, because you don't want to have those issues. You don't want to have the cord that's so hard that it's just like doing this weird thing. I don't know. Okay, cast off, and this is like the funnest thing, you guys. And it's the same if you're using straight needles or whatever, you know. We're just in the round, but so that was the last stitch. And the reason I put the stitch marker on the last loop sometimes, and sometimes it's just here, is because like right now I knew I was going to put this down and not be able to come back until the morning to do this tutorial. And in the meantime, that could slip off, right? I mean, there's kids and other things around, so, well, just kids. But I didn't want that to slip off, so sometimes if I need it to stay, I'll just keep it there, saying that was the last stitch of the last round. Okay. So casting off, it is so much fun, you guys. So again, if you want to go switch up to a larger needle, people just seem to do that very often. You're going to start off with whatever pattern you have, and you're going to knit or purl 2 of them, whatever your pattern is, right? So I'm going to knit the first one and knit the second one. But before I move on, I'm going to take the first knit that I did and pass it up and over this guy. Up. So I'm just opening it out so you can get that going. Bring in that second, you know, keep your loop on your right hook, and let it fall off of your left one. Okay, so now the next thing for our pattern was a purl. So I'm going to go ahead and purl, and basically you're doing things in sets of 2. So I have what essentially was my second loop, right? We got rid of the first one. So now I'm going to take my second stitch and pass it up and over my third one. And now you see there's a gap, and this is actually casting off. It's coming off of your work. So much fun. So my next one is a purl. So I'm going to purl again. And I'm going to take that third stitch that we had done up. Just make yourself a loop, you know, just pull it open basically. Just pull that guy open and keep your fourth stitch on your right needle and let it go. And then the next one's a knit. So I'm going to knit. And now I'm going to take what was our fourth stitch and pass it up over that fifth one. Next one's a knit, so I'm going to knit again, take that fifth stitch that we did, and pass it up and over the one we just did, which was essentially our sixth stitch. Okay, and again, adjusting and all that as you go along, so it's not too tight. Next one is a purl, and now you see your project is being cast off. It's coming off the needles, right? We're going to purl, and then I'm going to take this guy up and over. Oopsie. Up and over that purl stitch that we just did. And the next one again is purl, because I have 2 knit, 2 purl, and pass this one up and over that guy. Next one is knit. I love casting off, it's so fun. And there's lots of different ways to cast off. Okay, some people do like a crochet cast off or something, or 3 needle cast off, I don't know. This is the one I mostly go to, but there are definitely other ways of casting off. So I'm just continuing my pattern, and then whatever is on here, popping it up and over the one I just did. And look, there you go, it's casting off. Alright, I'll come back when I'm kind of towards the end. Okay guys, I'm down to the last 2 stitches. So the last one on my right needle, and the last one that I need to stitch off of here. And it is a purl. If you remember, we did 2 knit, 2 purl, 2 knit, 2 purl, and you ended on purl. So it's a purl stitch. So let's bring this to the front. Bring that to the front. Go ahead and get your, oh. It's a little harder because there's only those little bits left. Okay, there we go. go ahead and do your purl stitch. And this guy is done, but not really, because you're going to need it to help you. So I'm still kind of keeping some tension here with the yarn, and then we're going to bring it over, and you have one left. And some people just pull it from here and that's done. I don't know. This is always an issue for me, because I'm like, is that done? Or should you like bring this guy back in here and then pull it, you know? So do whatever you like at the end. Just always do it consistently, whatever it is that you choose to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this. I'm gonna leave myself a little bit of a tail. I'm gonna pull it through, which again, I feel like that's getting rid of 3 at once instead of it being more over here. But when you go to sew it, as you can see, you came around, it should be the same. I can grab this and then bring it in here to just kind of bring this up. But we will weave in all our ends when we're done, so I'm gonna wait on that one, okay? So I'm gonna leave it like that for now, but I'm telling you, this will come over here and it'll just kind of flatten that out a little bit, right? Help it disappear. Okay, so we cast it off, we did our whole thing. As you can see, this is the beginning, this is the end. It's very hard to see that I used a smaller needle here. Just for me, I know it just feels like when I'm pulling it right now, it feels less stretchy up here than the rest of it. So there is our leg warmer. Again, once I finish the second one, then I'll weave in all the ends, and I'm gonna start the next one. Now I can definitely start the next one with what's left here. It's not gonna make 2. This might make another half of 1, I would say, but I'm just gonna start with a new skein. That way I don't have to make any knots or continue that way, you know. I'm sorry, I'm getting all tongue-tied. I'll just make another leg warmer from another skein, and I'll meet you back here when I have 2 leg warmers that need our ends woven in. Yes, you guys, I'm not even gonna lie, it's been a couple weeks. I probably should have stayed on this more, but I'm going to cut that off, and this is it. And again, this is the last piece. I don't know what I did last time, but I'm just gonna pull that out. And that's that, and then we're going to sew that end in. So yeah, there's both of them finished. These things work like champs, and you know, having said that, look at this. I just went to show you guys. It is unscrewed. It didn't bother anything. I didn't even notice it until right now, so that's interesting. I wonder when that happened. It might happen right now, actually, when I was doing the casting off, because it was a little weird. Anyway, once I got to the end, you know, I'm doing this a lot, and kind of, so maybe it was just turning in a weird way. I don't know, but they worked really great. I do have another expensive set, and I don't remember what I started this video or what I said, so I might have shown it here. I don't think I did, though. But I'll use that other set in a different video of the circulars. Again, these are the Takumi, really nice bamboo, awesome. They're not super pointy. It's pointy enough that I was using this little guy that somebody had gifted me there from the Dollar Tree to push on, because if I was just pushing like this, it kind of hurt. So, so really good, because of course you want to get into your yarn, you know, when you're doing your knitting. So, okay, so I just have to finish off basically our ends, and that's it, right? So I'm gonna unclip all these little clippies. Again, I was just marking them every 20, so I didn't have to count them every time. So 20, 40, 60, 80, got to 100, and I'm good to go. So let me get these guys off, and I'll bring the other one, the original one, the first one I did. Honestly, it's so hard to finish things off, and I'm just going to be honest about that when you have pairs of like gloves or socks, or, well, these guys are easy. Because once you're done with the one, you're like, moving on to the next project, you know, or you start the next one. I did not start another work in progress or like start something else until I finished these, which there are so many things I wanted to get to, but I was like, no, I have to finish this before I start something else, so I know I won't finish it. Okay, well, let me grab the other one, and we will just, you know, finish up here. I will say, yay! I forgot to switch to a smaller needle at the end here. I just realized that because I was just going off the top of my head. Remember, I came up with these on my own. I wasn't like looking at a pattern, and I had told you guys the last 5 or 10 rows I had switched out to a smaller needle size, and I did not do that this time. So, oh well. I'll be right back. Okay, guys. So here they are, and it is a little thinner on the top of this one. It's negligible, but again, it does have to do with how it's going to fit, right? It's only going to stretch so much because of the size. So, oh well, sorry, that's what happens. You take so long to finish up something that you just came up with the top of your head. I thought these were my needles. They are not. Where are my little needles? Okay, there. So just yarn needle, whatever you feel comfortable working with. I like this one. And we're just going to sew on our end. So wherever you have a little end, this is very small, and I know it's tied off really well. But basically what I'm going to do is kind of look through here and see where I can... Actually, did I sew that one in? I feel like I did. It's very much in there. Well, we can continue. You can just kind of repeat your stitches. You can copy like the V's, whatever it is that you like to do to sew in your ends. Kind of why I end up knitting them in a little bit at the beginning or at the end or however, just so that they're already kind of embedded, you know. Basically you don't want it to come apart, but you also don't want the little ends to fall out. So I'm working on the inside of the leg warmer. If I can get this thing tight enough to get through the eye. Here we go. And maybe I'll bring it down in here. Again, it's kind of a short end I have left, but you can kind of copy your stitches. So like under this one, it's going to go under here, under the next one. Hope you can see that. I'm bringing it up. So if I bring this guy around, it's going to look almost the same. The stitch is copied. And then I can just tie it off, you know, which I'll do. This one's going to be kind of funny to do that with because it's so short, but I'll work as best I can. I'm trying to go that way. And then this little short end, I'm going to stick back through the loop I just made. And that's how you go backwards instead of trying to get the front of your needle back in when it's so short, right? And you can knot it twice or whatever. Anyway, I really do not like weaving it in, so mine is always just kind of a messy little thing. And on this side, you're basically trying to join that again so it looks nice, right? Because I don't know if you see, as you're working, you're basically working in a spiral, right? Like if I was crocheting, you would be seeing definitely a step up, so you can see that, where this is the end and this is where it began. So I would go to the inside and I would find my first little stitch, which is basically like this one, inside and out, and then again, just try to copy your stitches a little bit, and that'll bring it closer and a little more on same level, right? Now when I go inside, I'll just start looking for a spot inside that I can start copying, duplicating stitches. Since I have more on this one, I can do it a few more times, right? So like again, I can kind of go in here, copy that one. Maybe I'll bring it down here because I want to just kind of bring this closer down into the, down here instead of having the end up here like in that first part. And oh, this one actually should be copied a little bit differently, but that's okay. I'm just weaving in and out. And once you get to a spot, you can go back the other direction. Now maybe in here I'll tie it on this one little leg. Give myself a little knot. That'll help secure it. And then go back up in that direction, the other direction. Maybe I'll follow this one over here. And again, I'm not the best at this. Let's go a few times. Maybe I'll come down in here. Since I have plenty, we can definitely weave it in really well. When the other one I had such a small amount, couldn't do much with it. Okay, so this is the inside. I'll just kind of give it a little tug, cut it off, and that's it. Hopefully that wasn't camera. Sorry if it wasn't. I'll do the same thing for the other guy, and we have a pair of leg warmers that we just came up with. Knit 2, purl 2 ribs, super easy. Hopefully you learned how to cast on, how to do that kind of ribbing the whole way. Again, a good knitter would, you know, switch out to the smaller needles here for the last bit, and I totally forgot about that. So here we are, but they're gonna look great either way. But let me go ahead and finish these up, and I'll be back. Hey guys, well, they are all done. I wish I'd remembered what I said at the beginning of this video, because as far as the needles, again, that long tail kind of, or what they call it, magic circle, I guess. What it is that you want a much longer knitting circle. That way you can just kind of pull this out while you're working and just get rid of some of it, right? So it's like if your work is in here, you want that to be longer. So I started off that way. You know, it's kind of funny because in the meantime I had picked up or purchased a couple of knitting machines, and they do the same thing. You know, the thing is stretched out to this, and when it's done, it comes in. So basically I'm stretching this out while I'm working on this, and then it comes back into its shape. So just something to think about whenever I go to make another one. So I'll have some pictures for you guys, even though it's like 80 degrees here in San Diego now, nice and hot, just so you can see what they look like. And they're just really fun. I think they're really cute. Of course, super basic, super easy. You know, maybe next time we'll add some cables. I think that would be lovely. I love cables. And we'll go from there. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I'll have links as available in the description box, and I'll see you all at the next one. Bye now.